And oh my God, how do I record this? Where'd it go? Cheese and crackers. Oh, there it is. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Skeleton Crew After Show right here on JLJ Media, your only clothing optional Star Wars recap show anywhere on the internet. I'm going to make that bold claim right now. Yes.
I'm choosing clothes tonight, folks. Don't worry, you'll be okay. You can stay
Uh,
tuned.
It's a little
I'm Frank
chilly in New
Moran.
York.
Rapidly undressing as we speak right now is the resident heartthrob, John Dunphy.
Woo!
Yes.
What's up?
Uh, uh, and our founding father, the man who makes this all possible, James Lott Jr.
That I sound like I'm 200 years old. Thank you.
That's right.
Founding father. Yes, I was here when television was invented. And actually, I was here when the computer started getting by. Anyway. Hi, everybody.
Fresh from signing the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly.
We're breaking down episode 4. I gotta say it in my pirate voice. Can't say I remember no Atten.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good, actually.
So we're breaking down everything, and as always, the chat is up and running. So feel free to hop in, share your thoughts and feelings, and speculations about this episode and where the series is going as it finishes up its hopefully just season 1 of many. And of course, the super chat is enabled if you would like to contribute to the foundations and well-beings of JLJ Media.
The foundation shaking.
There you go.
This institution.
Institution. Wow, I really feel super old today. Thank you.
Before you head back to Plymouth Rock, James.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes.
I hit my head on it. It was crazy.
What did you think of this episode overall?
So, me first, or you said?
Oh, yes.
I know.
Yes.
I know. You go back and forth. You say John first. I wasn't sure. So for me, I was just telling before we came on. John said something last week that I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it this way, meaning I'm going to watch it very much like it's a child show. And that's basically what it is. It's for I can tell it's for children. This episode was very much of that. Also, I was curious about the Daniels. They directed this episode. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. I loved all that. I loved it. How quirky that was. So to me, overall, it gave me a different sense of them. And there was a whole different style for them. There was a whole different style for them. There's some holes in some of the story. But the messages and the character development was very good. Those are my initial, and Neil's a star, obviously. So I just want to get that said. That's my initial thoughts.
Just to make sure the audience has the full picture, when you watch this episode, were you wearing Star Wars underoos?
They don't make it my size anymore. They stopped that in Tough Skins back in the 80s. Pants.
Skins.
You know them, Frank. You know them, Frank.
Yes.
They stopped those ones with the patches. They stopped the ones when you get old. No. But I did watch it drinking out of a Star Wars mug. Does that count?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Star Wars mug.
Nice. John Dunphy, a child at heart. You just you touched your inner child as you watched episode 4.
Like, did you touch it, John? I'm like,
yeah, John. Did you?
I'm
touch
not quite sure. Not quite sure how to answer that question. So this episode was funny. I enjoyed the episode overall.
Uh-oh.
I think the 4 kids really. I think that the show did a great job casting these 4 kids. I feel like they really, they draw me in definitely. This episode, I will say, was probably my least favorite so far of the 4.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So I think there were just a couple of things. Like it was funny at one point they got to this planet at Akron or whatever, right? And Wim was like, "Oh, are you an army of kids trying to fight for control over the planet against like adults?" And I was like, that would have actually been better. Because they met this girl Hannah or whatever, and her dad sucked, and I was just like, I don't like him. He's so far he is my least favorite part of the series, is this random girl's dad.
I did not
Uh,
expect that, John.
yeah.
Wow, okay.
Also, SM33 is scary, scary as hell. All right, those are my overall thoughts on the episode.
Oh my
Nice.
God. Oh my God. Wow. Well, Frank, what would you think overall?
You know, I mean, I feel like this episode more than any other could sets a potential template for this series to run multiple seasons if it wanted to, or at least another season. And you could just see they're trying to find their way home, and then they just stop at another planet and they get embroiled in some sort of, you know, life-changing, life-affirming uh
Yes.
growth moment here that kind of just ties in with the kids and the overall theme. So, yeah, I mean, I felt like this episode was kind of slight in the sense where like Neil was great. Love seeing Neil get a lot of a lot of screen time, a lot of focus on the story. But I just felt like we really didn't know much enough about the war between these two factions to really get involved. In fact, like the opposing side, we really don't know anything about them. I mean, at least on the side of where the kids hang out, we get a little bit of insight with them to have a feeling about them either way. I mean, I guess we were just supposed to assume that the other faction is pretty much just like those people, but they uh, just are diametrically opposed for whatever reason. I mean, I think we've all seen that sci-fi trope, as I'm sure you have, James. Like, it's a war that's gone on for so long that nobody remembers exactly why it's happening in the first
Right.
place.
Yeah, right. Frank, I think I'm gonna use John again. Watching John, what John said, I watched it with the eyes of I don't think we're supposed to. That's the one of the holes I was talking about. I don't think we're supposed to really know. It wasn't. If it was an adult series, I think we would have got into it more
Hmm.
of the two sides. Because I agree with John in the sense that it was both you guys. It was thin on some of the big picture of the planet. But I said that wasn't the goal, I don't think. The goal was to just the kids. We saw Fern and Neil both get a shine and development.
Yeah.
And so turn on reading online. Apparently Neil's like he's like everybody loves him. So that's like the fans are just all over him.
I think
I
sex
see
symbols
why.
been thrown down a lot.
What? I'm trying to hear you. Oh no, come on.
Oh,
Oh my God.
he frozen.
Is he frozen? Because his
Oh,
heart's not open.
oh, he's
Just
back. He
yeah,
All
thought
right,
out. He thought out.
thought out.
just when I
Say it
started
again.
talking, I was just like, Neil is our resident sex symbol.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I think he is. His trunk and everything. No, but but people like him. So I think that was. But I thought here's the thing because we kind of know how Wim is right at the moment, and I think next is KB. We need to get something from her, but I think we need Fern because I remember I said this last week. Now that we have to go forward now, and so I feel like now we got Fern, who she's basically pretending. She's basically play acting, so to speak, this captain role, and Neil is actually kind of he's like the regular guy. He's us. He's like, what would we do if we're in that situation, so to speak? He's kind of scared and scary and so, but he got to become a hero, so to speak. I mean, it's kind of like there were some great children lessons, which I know we'll get into. So Frank and you, I kind of agree that it was light in story and scope, kind of. But I think it was supposed to be.
yeah, I guess the show knows where its target is, which seems to be mainly the kids and whatever this mystery is and them getting home. Because, I mean, we spent a little time with Jude Law,
Right.
but like the majority of everything that happens with him happens off camera, and he just
That
comes
was
in at the end, and he's kind of just like, oh wait, I solved everything. Here you go. Let's go,
that was,
kids.
that was weird. A little weird.
I'm like,
I
oh,
feel like that's what we're supposed to. I guess we're not supposed to. It's not really. He's part of the story, but I feel like he really is a secondary character, so to speak, which
mhm.
is a weird thing because he's Jude Law, number one.
Yeah.
And he's an adult, so he's literally playing second fiddle, which I know we'll get into. But yeah, I see what both are saying, but I kind of was like, I'm looking at the way John said to look at it. So I was kind of looking at like, okay, it's a kid show. So maybe they're not going too
Right.
deep.
Yeah. Although
Right.
John looked at it like it was a kid show and hated it,
I
No,
know
well,
this week. I
so
know.
so
despised it.
well that no. See, that's the thing though, is that like it is a weird thing because I feel like I still enjoyed the episode, and I feel like the strengths to the episode for me was continuing with this group of kids that we have and introducing some new characters like this mysterious Hana and her
Yeah,
group
yeah.
of Troika.
Yeah.
And like so like it bothered me that it's like they're brought before this random guy who's apparently Hana's father, and then he's like sending them into battle, like go ahead and scout. And I just like, what is the point? What's the point of this part? I don't
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I had no problem with most of the episode until we got to this random old guy leading these kids, being like, hey kids, go out there, you random people we just found. Like I don't just there was something
It was
weird
weird.
about yeah, I don't know.
It was weird, but
Yeah. There's I, I feel like once we have a sense of like, yeah, it would be great if, hey, I mean, I know that the thing certainly is guaranteed, but if we knew this was for certain a one episode season or one season series, or it could run for two or three, it would kind of help frame what the show could be, at least for me. Thinking of like James, like Lost. Like when Lost didn't have its end game set yet, and ABC was like, "Oh, we just want to keep this thing on going." The writers had to start kind of spinning their wheels because they didn't know how long they were going to be on the air. And once they were able to lock in, like, "Oh, we're doing exactly this many seasons left," then they could actually just start being more definitive in their storytelling and start paying off stuff and start moving towards whatever the end goal was. However you may feel about however it ended, but at least they had that direction and they're able to go
great.
towards
It's
it.
not even how it was. Seasons 3 and 4 were rough.
They
Ooh,
were.
I hung in there. They were rough. Oh my god. Season 5, like you said, once they made an end game, because sorry, folks, on a side note, they originally said we're doing 5 seasons. Then they're like, we can go on for 10. And they're like, and so and then it was like crazy for a while there. And they were doing flash forwards and flash backwards and flash sideways and flash. I'm like, oh my god, it's crazy. And killing off characters and being characters, like whatever, and the tailies and this, and it was all crazy for a while. I watched the whole series. I did. Actually, I didn't mind the ending, and that's another story, folks, but I'll go for another time. I didn't mind the ending, but I know what you mean. Like once they focus back, say, okay, now this is the last season. They were able to really get into. But this show, I said it last week. I said this show is one of those that could go on for seasons, and I said it's one of those things like trying to find their way home. It's like they're trying to go back. Try to get, like I said, it's like Battlestar Galactica. They were trying to get back home, but when they got home, well, I won't give that ending away either. But there's another ending that was kind of crazy. It's like I can see this going on for a while, and the kids get older and older. I mean, it's good. And Hannah's a great addition. I think I would love to see more of her later. She's somebody they should look into. But I'm just looking at going, yeah, it was a little light. There was some holes in it, but I mean, I as a kid, I can see some of the messages, like some of the messaging. You always have war. We'll get into it. We'll get into all that. We'll get into all that. But
Yeah, for John, I don't know how you feel. Like for me, my mileage may vary about how many more seasons of the show I will want to watch in this current kind of setting where it's like we're trying to find our way home. Like I don't know if I could watch another like a whole full other season where they're still trying to find their way home. That would get a little tiresome to me. I feel like at some point I want to be able to see what happens when they get back and the mist and Ad Aden is like officially revealed or whatever the next step are, who the supervisor is, blah blah blah. How do you
Mhm.
feel about that?
I mean, I would love for this season to wrap up with them getting home, getting back to Ad-Aten, and then like for a future season, I'd love to explore some of these other mysterious planets, right? And we got some of them in this episode with I forget what the names even were now, at Aravan or something, or at this or at that. And I feel like that could be a great uh fun second season where it's like, all right, they struggle this season to get home, they make some friends, they make some enemies, they get back to Ad-Aten at the end, and it's like, all right, well now let's explore the mystery of like what all these other mysterious planets are that apparently were part of these like crown jewels of the galaxy, that have been destroyed, but we went to Ad Akron. You know, we know that the exist because all the other coordinates for all these other planets were there except for Ad Aten, and it's like I'd like to learn more about these other planets, maybe that were there was something special about them, and they all got destroyed except for Ad Aten, and like what's the deal with this, and why doesn't the rest of the galaxy know about all these mysterious planets? And maybe these kids are a way to like kind of explore that. I don't know.
Well, see, I'm gonna push back just a second and remind you guys these are really short seasons.
Hmm.
So I think if done well, you could go 3 or 4. Where before, like Lost, there were 22 episodes or whatever, 22, 21, 20. I think of things shows like Gilligan's Island. That was like 21, 22 episodes a season. And that was a 3-hour tour that lasted, you know, or MASH. It was longer than all the wars that happened, longer than the Korean War, and it went on for 12 seasons, 11, 12 seasons. I'm like, but they had all of those. I'm thinking if it's done right, which is obviously subjective, but I'm saying they're shorter. If it's still 8 to 10 episodes, you might get along. If it's done well, you might get along with it, Frank. You might go along with it. But I mean, at some point, I think they should get home. But I think they could go a couple seasons without going home yet.
Do you think this type of series should have been animated as opposed to live action?
How funny! I never even thought of that.
Because I feel like with an animated series, you could do a lot more episodes, 30-minute episodes, things like that. You know, a group of kids geared towards kids. But I like that it's live action. But I wonder if a show like this would just be better as an animated show. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like it depends on what the overall idea for this is. If it's to kind of really focus on this moment of time where you don't want the kids to age, then sure, animation would be the way to go because then you'll never have to worry about that. But if part of it is seeing them like growing up in between seasons and getting older, and each time we see them, they're a
Yeah,
little bit older, then
Yeah,
yeah.
having live action then
yeah.
makes sense.
Because I would imagine, right, that some of the thought going into some of these series, especially when you have a lot of kids in the main cast, is do some of these characters test well for future movies or even trilogies if you're working at Lucasfilm, right? Like you want
But
to,
here's the thing. Here's the thing, John. Like Stranger Things, they got older, and they're we're waiting for season 5 to come. But like, I've enjoyed all the seasons. I know some
yeah,
folks they don't like the later ones. They're like, okay, I'm done. But I thought they were very inventive each of the seasons. So I don't know. I mean, and we get to see them get older. So
yeah,
that was kind of part of the fun. I know, like with Harry Potter,
yeah,
every movie came out, we saw them get older. With Twilight, which I hated that series, but saw a few of them get a little older. But it's like, so you're right. I think it depends on how it's like Frank said, how it's set up. It
yeah,
could be, well, I mean, I want to see this go on for 10 years, but I'm saying that I can see a couple where maybe you have a couple of near misses. Maybe like I said, maybe they come home for a minute and then leave again to help one of these planets. The kids are now they're seasoned because I feel like I said it last week, the kids have to have some experience out there away from their families for a while first. I think they have to kind of build up their whatever that is, and then they come back home changed. That's what I feel like they have to do, and
yeah,
that's why I was shocked at first. I was like, "Was Frank right? Are they really back at Ad in the next episode?" He got to ask that question last week, like, "Are you think they're going back to Ad?" And I'm like, "I hope not. I hope they keep going." And then we were tricked, so to speak, like in a fun way that it's not Ad. But I was just kind of like, no, they have to be out there for a while. They have to kind of go through stuff and realize some things about themselves. I feel like it's almost a coming of age story, so to speak.
oh yeah, definitely. And I feel like I appreciate what the show did this week. Honestly, I feel like we were all wondering that, right? That was one of the last things we talked about at the end of the stream last time was, are they going back to Ad-Aden? Or are they going to be stuck out there somewhere, um, still looking for it? And in this episode, we kind of got a little. We got both. Like we thought they
Yeah,
found Ad-Aten, and then they didn't. But we find out it's a planet that looks exactly like Ad-Aten, and it's one of those mysterious planets. And it's like, all right, the show like, for a show that we all acknowledge like is geared more towards kids. We're three adults that they threw all of us a curveball, and I feel
they
like
did.
I love that a kids show, or a show that you might think is geared more towards kids, is still doing that to even people that are adults like us is throwing us curveballs and being like, are they going to Manhattan? Are they not? And it's like, well, they're kind of going there, but not really. Like so.
Yeah, I feel like in today's predominantly streaming type stuff, I mean, like the era of like the kind of like the filler episodes are kind of gone. And like you
Mm.
really want whatever these 8, 10, maybe 12 episode seasons to just have a lot of meat on the bone. And I feel like audiences are not uh as willing to kind of just have like a filler episode. Oh, we're just exploring this planet. It's kind of a one-off. And then we keep going back on our journey. Because then by the end when the finale is like rushed and you're like, well, why did we spend all these other dumb episodes just really doing nothing when we could have did so much more with the plot. So I don't know for this. Like I'm curious to see what their plan is. If this is all part of their overarching plan for like 1 or 2 seasons, or if it's like, I don't know, we're making this to be kind of a more open-ended show for as long as we would want. Knowing in mind we have some ending for it, but we can push it off as long as we want because we can make these kids just keep traveling and traveling and traveling.
Yeah.
Frank, you're wrong. Goodbye. Okay,
All
no.
right. Yeah, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of the Skeleton Crew.
We're done, Frank. No, no, you're right about that. But there was so funny, Frank is, and John, and whoever's watching, listening. I actually went to read. I like reading the comments, people like stuff. So far, people are loving the series. It's really fun. They're saying it's like a nice respite from the last series that were kind of bad. Like, I mean, I don't want to say it out loud like that because you guys have been you fans are don't hit much. So I'm glad you come to fan for stuff for Star Wars. I appreciate that. You listen to all of our after shows. You guys have totally listened to it. We love it. But I see the comments seem to be, yes, this episode was light on content, but for many people, it was their favorite episode. It was the opposite of John. It was their favorite, like it could have just showcased the kids, and it was sweet, and there was a message in it. So I don't know. Maybe is that what's going on, Frank and John? We need now because do we need a palate cleanser? That's what I was looking for. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Are we needing a palate cleanser after the last 3 or 4 episodes that were very mixed for people?
Yeah, I don't know, John. I mean, I feel like for me, it's I'm down with the vibe that this show is giving me, but and I'm all down for episodes that'll focus a little bit more heavy on character than they do advancing a lot of the plot. So just because the whole reason that we're only going to want to watch these characters continue if we get more and more invested in them. So you do need time for us to really, drill in a little deeper into these characters. And so having Neil get a lot of spotlight for this episode, just was great. I mean, how could you not just enjoy him more?
Yeah, Neil's a cutie, he's a cutie pie, and he is all about peace, and I appreciate that. I feel like I said, I want to make it very clear that throughout this episode, everything with the kids, especially our 4 main kids and some of the kids we got introduced to in the Troik or whatever, right?
It's right.
I was all about that. I was all about that. There were just very few couple of things that I disliked about this episode. Um, but overall, like the focus on the kids and all that, even and like the story of the Troika and the Hatton or whatever, like was interesting to me. It was really just this one character that I disliked was Hana's father. Other than that, I still thought this episode was great. It was just that one thing that I disliked.
Well, I get that you wanted like a Mad Max with the kids, so to speak. It almost like it was leading to that. I was thinking, oh yeah, but there was adults going by. Then I was like, oh, are the adults going to be in the background where we don't really see them? There's kind of like scary figures. Even that probably would have been good too. But I agree, there were holes in the main kind of thing. It was a little, but I don't know. The other half of it, I felt good after I watched the show, so I clapped afterwards. I was smiling afterwards.
Well, yeah, I mean, because even the end scene when they go to that whole fallen sanctum thing, whatever that I enjoyed.
Almost like fallen rectum. I was like, what's it called?
Yeah, but like that scene I enjoyed. All the kids with Jude Law and SM-33 during that scene, I liked that. Um, it was just these weird scenes with them going to this like hidden place and the father being like, "Oh, we honor children here," and then they go into battle.
It was
Yeah, that's
weird.
how we honor
And
you, by putting you
suddenly
in the
these
front.
four kids are like have to get sacrificed like by this guy.
Yeah, but
That was the one moment.
here's the thing, John. I think almost this was great. So I think because they gave us such, they landed on a planet that was so interesting to us that we want more. I guess that's good. But they're creating this Star Wars universe like Andor we never saw before. That I think maybe that's why I almost kind of get what you guys are saying. It's like we want to know more about the history of this thing, and what because it's so exciting. We're going places we've never been before in a Star Wars video world, like in the video world. In books they've done places, but like in the video world, now we're seeing. I'm like, I want to know more about that. I want to go over here. Why they say treat the kids like adults there, like why? I understand there's a few questions I had too. I was like, oh, I want to know more about that, and but it's just like I think that's the good thing. I think possibly.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing, I guess we'll know in the next couple episodes if it's following this kind of template of we're trying to where we go to one of the other different one of these planets trying to find clues or thinking it's at Hatton, but that they're meeting people that uh, could potentially pay off later on in this season as people like, hey, we gotta gather all the people we've met to help us out at the end. So they go back to this planet and they pick up the girl, and they go to another planet and they pick up the owl from last season or last episode. So whatever that might be. I mean, who knows? We could be meeting all these other characters that could become more important towards the end of the season. But there is part of me though that I regret that because Neil makes the offer at the end of the episode as she leads them over to the tower for helping proving themselves. So it takes them over to the supervisor's tower so they can get the coordinates to go home. And Neil says, "Hey, why don't you come with us? Because you won't have to fight anymore." And I wish that character had said yes because I felt like it was bringing in something a little different because the four kids are pretty much baseline. We've never fought before. Their various curiosities and interests are different, but they're mostly people that have never had to worry about conflict ever in their life. And yet, so you're kind of seeing everything filtered through that perspective, and them learning and growing and changing. But then to have this girl who can kind of fill in more of that action component but is also trying to learn the other side that there's another whole way of living where it's not about conflict and fighting, that there can be kindness and peace, and having her learn that. I feel like because I don't know how much more I can watch the kids just be like, we're just kids. How can we fire guns or be in danger? Having them also have a friend that is around their same age that can fight,
Yeah.
I think makes more interesting stories.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I was disappointed by Hannah not going with them. I totally agree. Uh for everything you just said there. I thought that would have been a great addition to our little crew.
Yeah.
And it would have been fun to watch the four of them and Hannah and Jude Law with SM-33 kind of complete this adventure. And especially where we were in the season, like with the fourth episode, we're halfway through the season now. Like that would have been a good time to like pick up a new addition to our main crew, I think. Especially because like it seemed like the relationship between Hannah and her father, right? Because like he was just sending the four of our main characters out to scout ahead,
Yeah.
go look, and Hannah was like, I'm gonna go with them. And he was like, fine, fine, go with them. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he clearly doesn't care. So Hannah, here's your new crew. Go off with them. And so I was a little disappointed with how that conversation went when Neil was offering her the chance to come with them, and she was like, "No, I have to go aid my father." And I'm like, it's a bummer. It's a
Yeah.
bummer.
I mean, to her credit, she did run off doing that cool little like flip.
Hmm.
Like, all right, you left with style points. I'll give her that at least.
Yeah. Um,
Uh, uh, James, would you have wanted her to join the crew, or are you fine with her just being somebody we may or may not ever revisit again in the future?
I am actually I'm the opposite, of you guys. I think I was playing the opposite day. I like that we got a piece of her, and then now she's off. I'd love to see her again. I think it's a character I would love to see more of. So we all agree on that, obviously. And I want to see more of her. But it's supposed to be about the four of them and Jude, and it's that it's the five of them. That's the adventure. You go to a planet, you do the do, and then you get out. Then you go to the planet. I like that style. I like you meet people along the way that you want to see them again. I think you want to see them again. I would love to have her and Neil reunite one day somehow, some way. I mean, if there's a larger, we still remember we're still thinking there might be a larger plan out there that we just don't know about. It'd be kind of fun to reunite certain various people that we meet that we like. They come together at some point, maybe to fight it. I don't know.
Neil and Hannah, the new Han and Leia.
The new. Well, remember he had a crush on what's her name back at home. And we were like, I guess that's dead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's dead. That's totally dead. Oh,
she wasn't smooching that snout. So
on the snout. On the snout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already started to ship Hannah and Neil, and they will now be known as Hey Neil.
Oh my god. Okay, not heel. Okay, I got it.
No, Hey Neil.
Hey Neil.
Imagine all the things you can do with that trunk when he gets older.
That's
as a kid, with Hannah.
Oh my god.
Well, we also in this episode we've got barely Jod and SM-33 in here. The kids leave Jod behind on the ship with SM-33 on childcare duties. She changes little diapers and stuff.
Babysitting duty. Yeah, that was kind of funny.
That was a lot of fun, actually. Initiating babysitting protocol.
But Jod is using that to be able to go through the kids' stuff, try to figure out a little bit more, maybe about them. Finds Wim's credits, which come into play later on. That's how he buys his way out of everything. But then he's also really just focusing on SM-33 because, as we joked about, as the name of this episode says, he's not. He can't say I remember no AT-ATing. So Jod is all about like, hey, what trying to figure out. Do you know where the coordinates are? Can you remember anything about AT-ATing? In fact, takes him outside, and that's when he meets the rival clan, which I at least appreciated where it's just okay, just shoot me, and he goes down to his knees. I did like how that ended.
That was great. That was great. That honestly, that was one of my favorite moments of the whole season, to be honest. Because yeah, it was hilarious. Jude Law has done a great job delivering his performance, and I just feel like we all acknowledge this is a kids show, and just having that moment of him being like, you know what, just shoot me. I was like, this is that was a joke for the adults, and it was perfect.
I agree. But I said the part that we didn't see is him helping. That's one of the holes. We didn't see that part.
He ends up saving the kids by using some of the credits to bribe that rival clan to release the animals that they captured, and brings them back. And everything is, and then says, "Oh well, for this great job, I will just take these 4 kids. No skins? How many skins? No, I will just take the kids." Yes. Hooray! Oh, that old lovable grump.
I loved it. I fell for it, Frank. I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I did.
So yes, they get led over there by Hannah to the supervisor's tower, which is cool. Something we haven't seen yet on the show. We've not been to that area and Atten, even though we've, the parents have been asking to have a meeting with the supervisor.
Right.
Go up there and based on, everything looking very similar to everything else from this planet to Atten. We're assuming that supervisor's tower on Atten is going to look a lot like what we saw inside there, which happens to have pillars with coordinates for all the other planets that were on the map about all these kind of hidden treasures of the galaxy. And all of them still have their coordinates except for Atten. And we're like, oh, how are we going to get home? And as Fern then finally has her moment where she realizes I am just in over my head. Just a little crying moment. John, did you feel a bit more sympathetic towards Fern?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because she's been feeling this way for a while, since the start maybe, and has tried to, hide it, suppress it, and then has gotten to a point now where it's like, no, I'm not equipped to actually do this. Even though I've been pretending this whole time, and I've been treating Wim like crap, making him feel like he's an idiot. It's like, no, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so that final, the finally admitting and owning up to that, yeah, of course I felt bad for Fern because it's like we've known this, but you're finally admitting it. It's just, like
James, if you were to give, is which everybody loves, the James Lott Jr. power rankings of characters on various series. If you were power ranking these four kids in levels of like interest and and quality of character, how are you ranking these four kids?
Dang. I like all four. So there's potential for all four. Okay. Well, Neil's number one for me. So like he's just number one. Um, number two would be, I know he bugs you guys, but it'd be Wim. Because I want to see he started this whole thing. So I want to see his journey through this whole thing. I hope they show us more of his. But even that scene with Fern was great because he was kind of like, no, I would have gotten this far, and he wouldn't have. He's a little more impetuous. He just trying to shoot that gun. Like that's just him. But I want to see. I hope they develop him where he kind of grows out of that a little bit and starts to mature a little bit. So I would say he's number two for me. But actually, number three is KB. We don't know much about her, and I think she has a really big. I mean, she's super smart and mechanical. And I'm thinking she probably has something secretive in there. There's something in there we just don't know it all yet. And I can see her and then Fern. And so I like all four. So I would go Wim. I would go Neil, Wim, KB, Fern.
Interesting. John, do you hate Fern as much as James does?
I don't hate Fern. I don't hate any of the kids, but Fern is, if I have to make my list of my favorites from the four kids from top to bottom, Fern is the bottom.
Yeah,
It's KB. For me, it's KB, then Neil, then Wim, then Fern.
Hmm. Uh, I'm gonna just tell you you're both wrong. Uh,
that's it,
I'm
kids.
putting,
Done.
I feel like I'm no huge fan of Fern, but right now I'm putting Wim at the bottom, and maybe because it just hasn't really had that time to shine. Like James is speaking to, I'm waiting for him to have that moment of like, I know he's all about the fun and the adventure, but I at
He,
least need like some self-realization that like, holy cow, this is we're out of our league here. That doesn't mean
Yes.
he has to be like that all the time. He can still be kind of impetuous and stuff, but I feel like there's no like realization. Like he's
Right,
walking around like spinning that stick while they're when they first get on the planet. I was like, whoa, yeah, all right, moving
right,
around.
right.
do you think Wim or Neil, because they were the ones in the beginning of the season, right? The very first episode that were like playing around like Jedi. Do you think either one of them will be force sensitive, or do you think any of these four main kids could be force sensitive?
Uh, I mean, I guess that's the thing. Do you do the kid that's always wanted it the most finds out that he indeed is, or the person that is who's least likely to be a Jedi finds out that they all of a sudden they are.
So you
So,
think Neil, right? He's been the
Right.
peacekeeper in this
yeah.
episode. He's been the one talking about, this isn't fair. You're at war. My planet's at peace. Like that's what we should be doing. Could Neil be the one that's like the next great Jedi?
I don't know. I mean, like he seems so scared. I mean, he fainted at the end of this episode.
I
So
loved it.
he
I
passed
loved
out.
it.
I don't know. I don't know if he's got like the fortitude to even, train to be a Jedi.
Yeah. He passed out. He was just having a force vision, for the next trilogy.
We can only hope. Ugh, all right. Yeah, I need a fourth vision for the next trilogy.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, I don't know. James, do you want any of these kids to be a have a potential to be a Jedi?
I never thought about it until you said that. I never thought about that, and my initial reaction was like, no. That's my initial reaction. I see where you're going with that, and it'd be kind of interesting, but I always feel like no. I just think they could be force adjacent. I mean, just like I want them to meet like a real Jedi. I feel like William needs to meet a real Jedi. Like he needs to like I mean like and be like in awe and like but learn like the real like I said like Frank said, get a rude awakening on some like get some kind of awakening on some level. But them meeting a Jedi, meeting some Jedi, I have no problem with that. But I don't know. My first, I mean, but it could be. I mean, if one becomes one, it could be interesting too. I mean, it depends on how they write it. It depends on how they write it.
Yeah, I feel like for me, like if you know, 'cause it's very much like as we talked about, like very much like an '80s type of film, where you're kind of in that Goonies-esque sort of vibe. I think like the as I think about it, the thing that think is more successful with Goonies is that there's more of a range in age of the kids,
All
so
right.
that you know you can do some of the more innocent stuff, but then you also have like the Josh Brolin character who's a little bit older. So if you want to do a little something that's a little bit more physical or something like that, or a little bit more complexly emotional, like crushes or whatnot, then there's that too. So you have a little bit more range in the characters you can use. And like I think all these four kids are pretty much, you know, other than some slight differences, pretty much the same in terms of their naivete and their lack of worldly experience.
Do you
And so
think like so? I feel like this show, right, has been described by people as like Space Goonies, but we only have four kids here. And I feel like in the actual movie Goonies, we had a larger cast, right? Like, and we were introduced to some characters, right? Like, we were introduced to Neil's siblings. Um, do you think it would have been better if, like, Neil's siblings got involved, or if like Fern had an older sibling, or like something like that? If there was a bigger cast of these people that got stuck on this ship that was taken away from Ad-At and trying to come back, like would that have been a better choice to have more of a mix, a variation of like the main characters?
that or just yeah, I mean, I think so because it's like in this episode, they're thrown into like a big war conflict that they've never really had to fight, never had to done anything like that at all before. I mean, Fern has raced stuff that we've seen on at Atten. She's got on her little hover bike and stuff, so she does racing and stuff. But in terms of being like, you know, getting into fights or being more worldly or being a little bit more in, you know, just can do other stuff. I feel like these four are all kind of like the same, if that makes
Mm,
sense. I mean, certainly Neil is, you know, much less he's a lover, not a fighter. Wim is, you know, dreaming of adventure. But when you put everybody in the same situation, like all of them are like nobody knows how to fight, nobody knows how to do
mm,
anything. We don't know how to hold guns. So, you know, I don't know if having another character that was slightly older would open up stuff. Because if it's always like, oh, hey, we're just four kids that are in over our head again, like I don't know how many more times I can watch that and be like, oh yeah, I get it. I'm still a
yeah,
big fan.
yeah.
But that's just my personal taste. James, do you feel that way, or you're like, nope, these four kids can just stay this age forever?
No, I want them. I remember I said earlier. I want to get older. I want same as other shows. I want them to get older and like learn stuff, and we see them go through changes. I want to hear the voice changes. I want to hear all that. I want to see one season they're this tall. You know, I want all of that. I want that all to kind of I want them to go through and learn lessons. This could be a good young adult series. We just go go through adolescence to young adult. I want to see them get older.
You want to for that special musical episode when they sing "When It's Time to Change"?
Yeah, no musical episodes, folks. No musical episode. I know a lot of shows did it. Yes, Buffy did a good one. I'll give you Buffy credit. I like theirs. But everybody else, no, don't do it.
I'm
But
just
everybody,
waiting for I'm waiting for Neil for that episode in Skeleton Crew season 2 where Neil is just sitting there in school being, "What is this feeling? So strange and so new." Bum, 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 bum.
uh, yeah, I mean, uh, we end where, of course, Fern, being the captain, figures out a thing that she's done with her own natty bot, where she's helped override its memory and stuff. So she figures maybe the captain did that same thing with the original captain, did the same thing with SM-33. So uh, finally gets SM-33 to say like, oh yes, I do remember At and where it's at, but my captain, he killed everybody, so they didn't know the coordinates, and in fact said if anybody ever came asking about At that I needed to get rid of him, needed to tear him from limb, and starts going on his little his potential killing spree. But Neil, our lover, steps in at the last second to help save his friends, and then faints as Jod turns off the power switch.
Well, it's supposed to be. I mean, there's comedy in this. Obviously, there's like with the baby city thing. There's a lot of comedy in this series, and I think we're not used to seeing that so much either. Like just out and out comedy. Like it's like it's almost slapsticky, but not very slapsticky. But you know what I mean? Like it's it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. I don't know.
I'm all down. I'm down for humor if it's built out of character in the moment. So that's fun for me. Like, Jude Law, sinking to his knees and just shoot me now. Phenomenal. You give me that stuff, that's just great.
John.
John doesn't believe in laughing when it comes to Star Wars. Serious. No.
Well, wait, hold on. So, are we talking about Smee here at the end?
SM33, you go down. We're saying I just laughs in the series. Saying they put laughs intentionally, and we're saying Jude Law part was funny, and
oh yeah, well that part was very funny. The Jude Law just shoot me part. But are we talking about Smee now at the very end of the episode here?
Yes. Did you find him hilarious?
With the with the tear them apart,
Yeah.
limb from limb. This scared the hell out of me. I gotta be honest. I didn't find any of this funny.
It's disturbing me.
Yeah, no, this slow march, the clanking of this droid, just like wandering around, being like, yeah, my old captain told me if anyone was poking around about this, I was supposed to tear them apart, limb from limb, and just the constant continuing repeating of tear them apart, tear them apart, tear them apart, limb from limb, limb from limb. And I was like, this is horrifying. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, but thanks to Neil's bravery and Jod's quick thinking and turning off the power switch, everybody's fine. And we'll see if they're able to, as KB thinks, like a million different circuits in there. So whether they can rewire SM33 to give them the location of At-Atin without tearing them limb from limb. I guess we'll have to wait till next episode and see.
Yeah.
Or if they need certain parts to be able to kind of reprogram SM33, then that's why they've got to go to another planet to be able to get the stuff that they would need to fix SM33. Which, there you go. There's another way that we kind of delay getting to At-Atin and open up the world to these four young kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. I was just saying, now we're at the halfway mark. The next 4 episodes, I'm curious what's going to happen now. Like, are we going to other? We're going to. I mean, they're still on that planet. They haven't left.
I think the next thing we're gonna get is an update from like the parents. I think we're gonna get next episode's gonna start off with like the parents freaking out, like what's going on with our kids? How do we find them? What can we do? And then we'll meet up with the kids again after that. That's what I think. My prediction.
Yeah, I mean, because there's certainly something to be kind of figured out about all these planets. I mean, I mean, it's not like the other planets other than At-Atin have been completely destroyed or decimated. I mean, they are certainly in ruins from who knows what. But there are still survivors and civilization there to an extent. Why no one has ever like gone back to help anybody or they have not tried to leave. Yeah, stuff like that. That'd be interesting questions to figure out.
Yeah, I'm dying to know who SM33's last captain was and what happened to them. I'm dying to know what happened there.
I mean, he's one of those skeletons right there on that ship.
Skeleton crew.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking too. I just want to know how they got to At-Atin in the first place, because SM33 said that when they got there, or when they got to At-Akron, they killed the rest of the crew. Um, they scrambled SM33's memory. Obviously, we met SM33 on At-Atin. Uh, he was told to wipe his memory banks of any information about At-Atin, but his captain was gone, and he could have been one of those skeletons on the ship, but Did he leave the ship and go somewhere else? Uh, who knows? I have lots of questions, and I think the show's doing a good job.
No, it's true because when we first see SM-33, he's in the midst of, I mean, he's holding on to that one handle that kind of launched them before. So, like, yeah, I don't know was he trying to get away? Was he trying to land? What was the deal? And certainly everybody else there being in Bones means that they've been there for a while. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
uh, yeah.
And it's funny that there was like a autopilot thing that went into effect as soon as they went into the atmosphere of Ad Akron.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Have they been to all of these mysterious planets and destroyed each one of them and removed the coordinates of Ad Atten? Like, do they all have this sort of temple
Yeah. Because
where each planet has a pillar and each pillar has the coordinates? Has Atten been ripped out of all of them? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of questions that I think have come up from this. Because they could technically use the coordinates to one of these other planets and be like, hey, maybe there's a fallen sanctum there, and maybe the coordinates are still visible there. Like, like, I feel like there's a lot of ways this could go now.
that's true. I was thinking that same thing too. It's like that seems the smart play is just go to one of the other planets that you have to get the coordinates of and see what's there.
Yeah. So,
Um, Mysteries still left to unpack. We'll see.
It's a
With
good
four
thing.
episodes left, we'll see how
Oh,
the show does.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's fine.
yep.
Uh, yeah, but folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Skeleton Crew After Show. I mean, we talked it out. It was a very, kind of a brief episode, but we will be back with another new episode.
Don't know when yet. Okay, so folks, we'll talk in January because the next 2 weeks are holidays. They literally are. They
Yeah.
literally like it's Christmas and New Year's. I know they're airing new episodes. I won't be available for either of those two things, so for sure. So I won't be available either of those weeks. But after the first year, I will talk to the fellas. You'll get your schedule, John, for January. I'm sure for January.
Yep.
And we'll figure out, and we're gonna talk after. The three of us are gonna talk after this. So, so just stay tuned. Just keep watching JLJ Media and following us, and we will let you know when we will return.
And fans, listeners, podcasters, just know that by the time you've heard our next episode, uh, both John and James will have snuggled together. And
Hopefully,
that
yes.
time between. So,
I hope so. I'm going to hold on for dear life. No, we're gonna. Chances are, folks, John and I will see each other. So we will. And I already got text already from people. Birdie told me you're coming. I'm like, I said those birds are loud. Look for James Lott on JLJ Media or James Lott Jr. You will might see pictures or video. So stay tuned for that.
It's gonna be like a Penthouse Forum letter.
I always read the letters. Always.
But if you, so everybody, thanks for joining us here in the chat, whether you're listening today or you're listening to us later. Thanks for joining us here for this Skeleton Crew After Show. Yes, follow JLJ Media to find out when the next episode will air. But don't worry, we're not going to miss a single episode of this season. We will be covering every one. So make sure you make sure you follow James, and he will keep you up to date when the next episode will be available. But if you want to stay in touch with us in the meantime, find out about James and John's, torrid romance on the East Coast in the weeks to come.
Winter romance or winter romance.
Yes. John Dunphy, where can they find you?
Well, so James and I will probably be standing on the top of the Empire State Building a couple weeks from now.
Yes.
Having a romantic evening together when he comes to New York.
Scared for my life. So
look out for those photos. But before that, if you want to find me, you can find me at jdunn89 on all social media platforms. I play music. I take pictures. They're nice pictures. So follow me. All right. At jdunn89. That's me. If you are interested in any sort of competitive reality TV, you can find me also at StratChatPod. I am the current defending champion of the Big Brother draft and the Survivor draft. I correctly predicted the winner of Big Brother 26 and Survivor 47.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, yes, I correctly predicted the winner of both of those shows. And I'm just waiting now on the winners of the Challenge 40.
Nice.
Um,
Uh, how do you feel, John, about the Challenge All Stars moving from Paramount Plus to MTV?
yeah, I think it's smart for the show. I think the Challenge has been trying to do way too much lately. Uh, they need to just chill out and go back to their roots and get people on the show that their fans actually want to watch. And they need to go back to a format that's not super annoying. And they just need to go back to what the challenge was and is supposed to be. And I think they're going to do that with the Challenge All Stars 5 because they're bringing back a Rivals format. And the cast for that was announced, and some of the pairings are pretty damn good.
I do not need. I could go a long time without ever seeing Fessy back on the challenge, and that he's back along with Amber, somebody else that I really could do without too. Ugh.
Well, I actually love Amber B. So
No, you don't.
you and I have some beef to get through. Yeah, I think Amber B has gotten way more hate than she's ever deserved.
All right. So you mean you're done with the Challenge USA format? You don't need to see that anymore?
Challenge USA, Challenge UK, Challenge Australia, Challenge New Zealand, Challenge whatever. I miss me with that. Just have the challenge and invite people that are worthy of being on the show onto the show. And they can be from all those countries.
Okay.
That's fine. But just give me the challenge. Because that's the problem too. They do all these different versions of the show. USA, UK, Australia, whatever. And all the seasons are exactly the same. They invite a cast of 20 something people and every single daily challenge is the same. Every single elimination is the same. I don't need to see the same show over and over again with people that have different accents. Just have one season of the show and invite the best people and let's have a season. That's all we need to do.
But I am down for I'm down for at least two seasons a year from the challenge, much like Survivor does. Give me a fall, give me a spring, a winter.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
Whether it's an all-stars format or something, but just give me, double it up. The challenge is too good. Just only get it like, once a year.
Yeah. I'd be down for a regular season of the challenge every year and then like an all stars. Just having those two seasons. Regular, all stars. Let's do it.
Yeah, as long as you're feeding fresh meat into the regular seasons. There's a lot of Survivor winners or Big Brother winners, or I mean Love Island I could care less about, but
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
without that we wouldn't have Devin. So
Yeah. And also we wouldn't have Cachet, who Cachet I met on a few I met her at a few Big Brother after parties and I love her.
yeah.
So
All right. This is surprising to find out that John Dunphy has eyes for a reality show contestant. Hmm, okay.
It never happens. Never.
Hey, look at that. For all you Strat Chat viewers, you had a little bit of crossover here, a little crosstalk at the end of the Skeleton Crew after show. So you can hear John and his co-hosts
Yeah,
talk
I forgot we
much
were
more,
even talking about Star Wars.
yes, much more eloquently about competitive reality shows on his Strat Chat pod. James Lott Jr., where can they find you, sir?
We're all James Lott Jr. sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. And this is the last show of the year for a live show for JLJ Media. So I'm very excited. Thanks for 2024, folks. Thanks to John and Frank. And some of our others like Anthony and Kim, and my girls Amanda and Tammy Govea, and Frank again, and any other co-hosts I've had over the year.
God, Frank is
Thanks
so
for
hot. God.
thanks. He has that Midwestern charm. No, with the LA bitterness. I love it. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to, and especially we've done so many of these Star Wars shows, and we did a couple of Marvel, and so thanks for that arm of the business. Thanks for making it successful for us this year. Thank you. You can follow me at James Jr. Bye.
Ooh. Follow me on all social media at Happy Go Jackie as we turn the lights down low and close the door behind us here. At JLJ Media as we hunker down for the winter break. We will see you in 2025 with an all new episode of the Skeleton Crew Recap Show right here on JLJ Media. May the force be with you always.
Always.